So most of the time what we're doing is we're having to custom write things on our side. We have our MDM pull the information, and then we have to provide that information to the security team. So if we had something that could just get the information directly and pipe that over to their system, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly. So queries and policies, last bit of information I want to cover. I know we're a bit over time, but take a couple more minutes to talk a little bit about queries and policies, because ultimately that's the core of Fleet. Is it's really the ability to extract information like we talked about before, taking all of that disparate information and kind of digesting it down into a SQLite database. So here's one example of detecting Python packages. Now, you might say this is a fairly complex query, but really it's all about taking data from one of the known tables, in this case, Python packages, and then extracting version and process information and bringing it all together. So, you could be a SQL expert. You might not be a SQL expert. And the place what, kind of makes it easy for me to digest is taking our standard queries. So if you go to fleetdm.com and you do a quick search for standard queries. So this standard query library is one of the greatest places to start to give you kind of a background on what is out there. What are the base level pieces of information from a security perspective, and also from an IT perspective, to get me started in answering those questions. And then to be able to take the data and either access that in a REST API. So if you go to our docs section, take a look at the REST API, any one of those things that I showed you in the UI just now is fully available, via REST API call. So the API is key to us. Not only that is the fleet control side of things. So if you just do a quick search on fleet control here, being able to take fleet control, which is basically a CI type of application to be able to integrate within your existing CI framework, building GitHub Actions around it, and to be able to automate some of the things that you do on a daily basis in a UI. So some of the sample queries I showed you already, but some of these ones that, pretty straightforward is understanding which certificates are installed across your fleet, right? And what, how have they been deployed? So answering those questions and be able to easily get the answer back to your IT team or back to your security team. And if I wanted to run these queries, I could run them, and it's going to come back with a bunch of placeholder records here. Let me just do a quick search here against a real client. Let's do one of my UTM VMs here. And I might not have any curl certificates loaded, so I'm going to have to modify this a bit. But the idea here is that you're asking these questions in real time and getting the answers back. In this particular case, I'm not doing any, I probably don't have any curl certificates. Let me just go back and modify this real quick. And creating a new query is also fairly easy to do. So we've got a autocomplete for you here. I'm going to run that same query and just grab everything from the certificates table across that device. Run that again. And so the device is, the OS query agent is constantly polling the fleet server to see if there's anything required of it. And so here you see all of the certificates that are coming back from that device. Now that's a live kind of experience. Now you can take that same query, you could save it out, and you could schedule it. So that means that I could take this data and have it get pushed off to whether it's a Splunk endpoint or whether it's like a Splunk log detection or Snowflake data store. The point here is that the data is widely accessible by really any data collection platform. So you push it off to a SIM and you can do that aggregation and ask questions in that platform. So let's say I wanted to have that run every 6 hours, maybe certificates, I'd probably want to run that every day. And then I can take that data and I can get a snapshot of it. Or if I wanted to only know if there's any changes to the next time I run the particular query, I could run a differential query. So that type of data is essentially available to you and consumable by your security team. Another interesting point here is that not only the data that you're querying, but the user actions are fully accessible by your security team to audit who exactly executes these queries. So you can see here, I executed a query. So it may not be, appropriate for certain admins to run queries against devices. That's ultimately what our teams feature is for. And so basically being able to take teams and only provision users based on specific access requirements for a team. So Fleet is bound by a pretty robust RBAC control system. So I can create a user, assign that admin user only the either admin or maintainer role or permission, and they wouldn't have access to any of the other hosts off of different teams. So good resource for you to look at here is this in our documentations, take a look at permissions. And this manage access here is the best resource for you to show like who can do what with certain roles within Fleet. So I know we're right up at the back of our time, but let me ask you, are there any other things that you would want to cover? Maybe we could do another session like this in a week or so. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, if we could take a look more at some of like how we can do some of the MDM management via Git-ops workflows, that'd be great. But no, I really like what I'm seeing here, especially with the managed access portion. Given that we have the two different teams merging, we're not going to want our IT people to have access to everything our security people have access to, and vice versa. So it's good to kind of see that that's already implemented.
Cool, awesome. Let's chat again soon, and we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.